Live from the Blue Wire Studios here in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada at the Wynn Hotel and Casino. It's episode 253 of Top Rope Nation. I am your host, Ryan Drosty, joined here by my guys, Justin Joint, Kyle Ross, here to break down AEW Double or Nothing 2022. Boys, before we get to the show, I mean, how's Vegas treating you so far, Kyle?
I mean, it always treats me well. I think we're doing good. I mean, wow, we're in the big time here. No longer the intimate confines of our home.
Yeah, WWE may be downgrading from their arenas, but I'm a long ways from my basement right now.
No, this is awesome. This is very impressive walking up to the Blue Wire studio here in the Wynn. We saw the logo behind us right away, made us feel big time. Really appreciate the staff here producing the show, and it's going to be a good time. So, yeah, we've been here all weekend, getting this show in here right before we hop on our flights and head back to the Midwest. So just in time to break down what we saw last night at the T-Mobile Arena. It was a fun time, a long time. It was a very lengthy show. That's going to be a point that we talk about tonight, I think, for sure.
But at least the drinks were cheap at T-Mobile Arena.
Yeah,
that kept us going.
Right. $20 cans of beer, right?
Yeah, and a lesson to anybody else who's going to go to a show, don't stop at the first concession. Keep going. Look for another one. There's going to be shorter lines.
Or when you try to get in.
That's right.
Kyle, your theory about lines heading into events? Because you were like the magic man, yet again, getting us into the arena.
Well, I'll tell you what, first of all, there's a lot of theories about lines in AEW Double or Nothing. But as for this podcast and getting in, there was a lot of complaints about getting in the building. But look, Americans just seem to love to wait in lines, and they just get in the first line they see. And I was like, guys, hold on a second. Let me just walk around this building. Let me just take a few paces. And I was like, guys, there's no line, like if you just walk 500 feet. And we got right in the building. So a lot of complaints, I know, getting into the arena last night. But I don't know. I feel if you would have just walked 10 steps, you could have gotten in a little quicker.
Yeah, you just went off exploring. You're like, come on. You're waving us over. We got our whole group of, 8 people heading to the show together. Yeah, it was a blast. Let's get our grades in. All right, this is what we do on Top Rope Nation. All of our pay-per-view review shows, right away, we grade the show and check here on our Twitter page, see what our listeners graded Double or Nothing. It looks like 143 votes right now, 30% A, 46% B, 15% C, 9% DRF. The WWE apologists coming in with the DRFs here. Justin, let me throw it to you first. Give me your grade.
I'm going to go A-. It started great. It ended great. There was a pretty big lull in the middle where I think Tony Khan was trying to outlast the Game 7.
Yes.
Which my Celtics won.
Heck yeah, Justin's having a really good. You didn't even put money on that game, did you?
Not a gambler.
Yeah. We're in Vegas. Come on. No, I was pretty confident in your boys to win that. But, yeah, we were following along on our cell phone devices in the arena, and Justin was very happy when the Celtics went over. So, yeah.
And all the people who wanted to criticize Tony Khan, and I thought it was kind of insane too. We talked about it on the preview show last week about him delaying the big matches for Game 7. I can tell you, I was at the concession area during Thunder Rosa Serena Deeb. Somebody walked up to the bartender, because we had a kind of a special section where we were at, where, we had our own concessions. It was very much a bar area.
The Bud Light Lounge, I believe.
The Bud Light Lounge, yes. And somebody walked up to the bartender like, hey, man, can you turn off the wrestling and put on NBA Game 7?
Doesn't even care.
Yeah, even though he was there. I guess he could just look out the curtain and watch the wrestling.
I'm going to go B+. I agree with Justin. I was on our Twitter account pretty vocal about there was 2 matches that they added last minute. Wasn't sure that those need to be on the pay-per-view. They probably could have put those on the Dynamite here Wednesday night at the Forum, and would have been a good draw for the show. But they ended up being good matches. The overall length was really long. I agree. Like, there was a lull. I would not say the crowd was ever dead throughout the show. I mean, there was always a buzz in the venue, but there was definitely that lull, like Justin said. But once you got to not the Stadium Stampede, but
Anarchy in the Arena.
Anarchy in the Arena. Yes. Anarchy in the Arena, I mean, that really woke everybody up. Yeah. And then from that moment on, I mean, those last 3 matches, everything was off the charts.
And coincidentally, Anarchy in the Arena was beginning when the basketball game was ending.
Yes.
very stressful time for me.
Yes.
Yeah. Justin biting his fingernails, chugging the beers.
Jimmy Butler's missed 3, I think, was just as they put Wild Thing on a second time.
Yes. There you go. What did you guys think of that, by the way? We'll talk about it, but playing the music through the match.
Great.
I liked it.
Took me back to New Jack and Natural Born Killers.
Crowd loved it. They were pissed when it stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some people on Twitter didn't like it, but I thought it was great live.
And now we missed it being live in person, but supposedly Jericho's the one who stopped the music by smashing a soundboard or something like
I
Yes.
that.
thought I saw him like pull a cord or something. Yeah,
That's correct.
What a jerk.
Yeah. So, A-, B+. Our listeners were A to B range. Kyle, your take. I know you hate doing this.
B, and like every other grade I've given in the history of the show, I reserve the right to change that at any point in the future.
Yeah.
Regarding the length of this show, I think that seemed to be more of an issue with those watching at home than those in the building. It's also a little bit different. Usually when we do these AEW reviews and length becomes an issue, we talk about, this match could have used 5 less minutes, 10 less minutes. Here, it was a question of, were there too many matches? You made that point earlier, Ryan. There probably were, but again, Tony had a strategy to outlast Game 7. He was not going to put the top matches on till the basketball game was over. He doubled down on that, tripled down, quadrupled down, quintupled down, whatever 6 is. That's how many times. I mean, he downed a lot of times in the post-show presser. So there's that. But the big difference, at least vis-a-vis Revolution, in terms of length, is last night the crowd clearly peaked at the end of the show. A lot of times, now All Out, they clearly peaked at the end too. The 3 of us were there live as well. But there's kind of a sense of burnout sometimes with these AEW pay-per-views, and you don't want that for the main event. But last night, I think clearly the main event was the hottest match in the building.
I'd be curious to know if it's because of the way they laid it out. I know I was talking to you guys last night about, would you rather have, if the show's going to go 4+ hours, do you want 8 to 9 matches that are all going longer than you'd prefer them to, like you alluded to, 5 extra minutes could get slashed from basically almost every match from the last 3 or 4 pay-per-views. Whereas this one, we're looking at 13 matches that were all in that 12 to 13 minute range. So you're getting different flavors of matches that it's going to keep the fans' interest a little bit better than them maybe kind of drowning out.
What is the best pay-per-view, any promotion, that has 10+ matches on the card?
Mania 3?
That had 12.
17? Mania 17?
I think that might have had 11.
Yeah. Boy.
Let me look.
I would
How
have
many
to
that
think about that, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this coming in, too. That was going to be the big question, is the amount of time, that they gave these matches. You get 13 matches or whatever on the card, one of them on the pre-show. As long as they're not getting 20 minutes, 5-6 matches, I'm fine with it. And I think only 2 matches went over 20 minutes last night.
Yeah, and for me, there's really only one that felt like it really overstayed its welcome, which I'll get more into when we talk about the card.
There were 11 matches at WrestleMania 17, for the
Okay.
record. But, I think looking forward, I don't know, maybe we can visit this again at the end of the podcast, but AEW now, if we're to believe Tony Khan, and I don't think he would lie about this. I know he had Tony Schiavone do his ode to Gorilla Monsoon at WrestleMania 7 and say, this is the most purchased Double or Nothing of all time during the show.
Yeah.
Those unfamiliar, Gorilla Monsoon at WrestleMania 7, I believe it was during Warrior Savage, goes on and says, this is the most watched pay-per-view of all time, which was a complete lie, for the record. But he said it. And we don't know what else Tony said. I'm just going off, secondhand. I guess Tony was still trying to get people to buy for the main event, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But 4 pay-per-views in a row now, if we're to believe Tony Khan about last night, year-over-year growth. When grading this pay-per-view, and why I'm a little bit leery is, we're going to find out if the last 6 or 8 months of booking decisions were the right ones based on what the pay-per-view numbers are for All Out, Full Gear, next year's Revolution, next year's Double or Nothing, moving forward. Because there does seem to be a sense, at least on Twitter, that the promotion isn't as hot right now as it was last fall. For instance, coming out of All Out, when Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole showed up, and Punk had just recently debuted.
Yeah. No, I mean, it'll be interesting. You put the title on CM Punk, though. I mean, arguably the biggest star in the promotion. If you're looking to continue those pay-per-view buys, I mean, this is the guy to do it. You got All Out coming up as their next big pay-per-view.
Forbidden Door.
What's that?
Forbidden Door.
Forbidden Door. And then, their classic 4 shows, then All Out, potentially both in Chicago. So we'll talk about possible matches for All Out, and if it is going to be Punk taking in the world title, there's some interesting things that they could do to, I think, pop a big buy rate again for that show.
And obviously he was the impetus for the promotion taking off last fall, his debut. So, yeah, I don't disagree with that decision, and I think we were all 3 for 3, if I remember on the preview, picking. Oh, you weren't? Oh.
Nope, I was Hangman.
Yeah,
okay, that's
true.
right. That's right. But that's the old podcast trick. Guarantees one of us will be right at least.
Well, I was starting to second guess a little bit, but then I said I've got to stay true to my original pick, stay with my gut, so I went with Punk still. But
I was just rooting for Hangman. I thought it would have been a way to raise him up a level, but I don't disagree with them putting the belt on Punk at all.
yeah.
You know who was not rooting for Hangman last night?
Uh-oh.
The guy in front of us.
Uh-oh.
There were some interesting characters in the crowd. I'll just say that.
That guy and his butt crack.
We were watching a few different
boy.
shows there at the T-Mobile Arena. That is for sure.
Imagine spending the money on that ticket and then having your nose in your phone for 75%
The
of
whole
show.
time. Or FaceTiming people so they could try to watch the show.
FaceTiming people that did not look interested in the show whatsoever.
Yes.
Or just straight up having a naked woman on your phone.
True story.
True story, yes. Kyle, you mentioned, business-wise, looking for the year-over-year growth. They did announce during the show that this was their first $1 million gate.
Yes, that is not up for debate.
Yeah, and it's not their biggest crowd ever. I think Punk said at the end, after he won, he gave this speech off air that it was their biggest indoor crowd of all time. Don't believe that's accurate, but it was their biggest drawing show money-wise.
Wasn't there a Dynamite in D.C.?
Yeah, the first Dynamite in D.C. had a bigger announced crowd, as did, of course, the Rampage he returned on in the United Center. Sold out, bigger building. Forbidden Door will be, a bigger crowd.
And then Grand Slam is the all-time attendance record, which was
yes.
obviously an outdoor show.
Yeah, but it's up there. I mean, top 5, top 6 biggest crowds that they had. So, let's look at the card.
Biggest pay-per-view?
Yeah.
Right? Because none of those were pay-per-views.
There you go.
All right, let's break it down
Okay. Should we start with Punk and Hangman?
and work our way back.
Yeah. I guess let's talk about
that.
it. I mean,
Okay.
interesting dynamic, as we said, going in, because you've got babyface versus babyface. This is the match that we thought was coming for months, but we were always kind of second guessing if they would actually do it because of that dynamic of babyface versus babyface. And we've seen, depending where the shows were happening, we had, Punk working heel, of course, in Long Island. We had Hangman at one point in time looking like he was going heel a little bit, where he was going after the Punk fans in the crowd. Did you guys feel like, it was very 50-50 in the arena. It was kind of hard to tell who had the advantage. At one point, I thought Punk was getting booed more, but then the crowd started cheering him, and then it seemed louder. It was really, really hard to tell. Did you feel like Hangman was playing into the heel bit more during the match?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, especially when you factor in the finish.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%.
You know what was unique, though? The most unique thing about it, the dynamic, was it felt like for both guys, the boos outweighed the cheers.
Yeah, that's true.
It felt like people were not just into cheering for who they wanted to win the match, but they were more into booing the person they didn't want to win. And I'd love to take credit for this reference, but I can't. I stole it off Twitter, but the great Charles Loss, who runs the PWO board, he referenced Bret Hart Undertaker, One Night Only, the first UK pay-per-view, September of '97. That was a match. If people go back and watch it on the network, it had kind of that dynamic as well, where it was split, but the boos kind of outweighed the cheers for both guys. I thought that was a very good reference by him and accurate.
Lots of dueling chants.
Lots of dueling.
Some of them very inappropriate for young children. Not a lot of young kids at this show, though. I talked about on the pod, I took my oldest daughter to her first show, which is a WWE event, and way more kids in the crowd. You don't get these same types of chance at a WWE show. But I mean, a whole different energy at an AEW pay-per-view television all the time. It was very noticeable in this match. I mean, the crowd was on fire.
And something else we need to say about the crowd, Justin, you noticed it as well. As soon as I mentioned to you, you shook your head, yeah, as if you had been thinking about it. It was a casual crowd. There was a lot of people who weren't as up on the product as you would think based on the fact that they spent hundreds of dollars to be there in attendance. I mean, there was a guy behind us during the Anarchy in the Arena match that said, wait, is the Inner Circle still together?
Yeah.
I don't know who's on whose team.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And then, then I messaged that to our good friend Liam, and he messaged back. He's like, dude, they all came out in white together. I think they're on the same team.
Yeah, they matched pretty close.
I actually edited that message a little bit. Liam had it with I'm sure he wouldn't mind me telling you.
Well, speaking of, taking your kid to a WWE show, a couple rows back, there was somebody wearing the most atrocious Vince McMahon shirt ever created.
He actually bought that $100 T-shirt and kept yelling, "Sports entertainment always wins."
It's very bizarre. That wasn't the only WWE, not really trolling, I guess, but it wasn't the only WWE reference we saw. You guys have probably seen this on social media, but we had a truck driving around the T-Mobile Arena advertising Money in the Bank with Cody Rhodes' face front and center. I mean, I would have done the same thing.
It's a very small truck.
It wasn't.
Heyo.
Could have tipped that thing over, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Could have got some people together and tipped it over. Yeah, okay, so the main event, we talked about the crowd reactions and everything. The match itself, it felt like to me, it started a little bit slow. Obviously, people are going to talk about there were a couple botches, Punk twice, going for the buckshot lariat, joked afterwards he'll never try that again.
Although the problem was him going for it the second time. The first time, they actually covered for it well because Page stood up maybe before he was supposed to or something, and Punk kind of stopped almost, and it felt real, like he's like, oh God, he's ready for me.
Yes.
And so the quote-unquote botch, it felt more authentic, like maybe that was something he would do, like he held up doing the move because he didn't want to get it. The second time was bad. And what's the old adage? I mean, my God, I've known this since I was 16. You don't repeat the spot.
No.
Which they did in Darby versus Kyle O'Reilly.
Yes.
Same thing.
I feel in AEW they do that a lot.
He was visibly mad the second time, pounded the mat, but...
And the crowd groaned.
Yeah. So, I mean, but overall, the match progressed very well. And by the end, I mean, the crowd was with him the whole time, but we had no idea who was going to win. I mean, this is what you want out of professional wrestling. You got a world title match, completely unpredictable. Nobody knows who's going over. And then the callback to WrestleMania 8. Kyle, it was like we were at the Hoosier Dome in 1992.
Yeah, and I realized it. I'm not going to toot my own horn. I realized exactly what the finish they were. And Aaron Graham,
he was not happy. He was not happy about you calling the finish.
He was like, how do you know that's coming? I'm like, because the belt's there, I can just tell it right away. Yeah, I sensed they were going to do it because I don't know how it came across on TV, but who was the ref? Was it Paul Turner? I think it was Paul Turner. When Page was going to use the belt outside, he grabbed the belt from him and then laid it on the ring apron. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, that's going to factor in the finish. And then when there was the ref bump, I was like, we're going to... Because you had asked, I believe, Justin, what Bret Hart match are they going to borrow from in the finish? And I was like, I don't know. And then as soon as I was like, it's Bret Piper, WrestleMania 8, for sure. Yeah. And that's what it was.
You know what? I think all of us, especially me and Ryan, we love Bret Hart with, all of our heart and soul. But after these last couple months and after last night, the Bret Hart cosplay match stuff has got to go for a while.
Yeah. It's cool to pay homage to him like that, like the first couple of times. You don't want it to happen every time because it just makes it predictable. Like immediately when you called that out in the crowd to us, Kyle, we're like, oh, yeah, here it comes. Yeah, this is what's happening. He's reluctant to use the belt. Here it comes.
And it comes across as phony. And to make a musical comparison, I think we've actually said this before in the pod, it's like when a band just blatantly shows its influences on its sleeve. It doesn't update. It's just like, oh, here, we like Jimi Hendrix. Let's do some crazy guitar solo or something like that.
Yeah. But I mean,
sure, I could have made a better analogy, but you get it.
Don't get me wrong, though. I love the match.
Oh yeah, it was tremendous.
Great match. And in the end, to me, it was the right decision. We've talked about this on the pod. Biggest star in the promotion, trying to continue to grow the brand. All these big shows lined up. For sure, at least one in Chicago at Forbidden Door. And so I think Hangman, it doesn't take away from him. They can continue to evolve his character by looking at, all right, how does he handle this loss? Previously the story was for 2 years, him trying to build up his confidence, and now we're going to get to this point where he had the confidence. He was the champion. How does he handle loss? He's a young guy. You can build him back up. It's not going to harm him. Punk's not going to be around forever. He's hot right now. This is the time for him to be the champion. Probably not for a real long time, but we'll see.
Well, and the finish, on the flip side, we talked about, okay, maybe we're borrowing from Bret Hart a little too liberally. It does give Page an out, right? Like, he can go on. He's like,
he saved some face.
Yeah, he saved. It's not like he was just beaten clean as a drum, and he's clearly secondary to Punk.
Yeah.
So that's the key. I mean, if you want to, back in the day, they always, unless if you were out of the territory, on your way out of the territory, they would always give you an out. Something that you could use moving forward and talk about, I should have won because of this. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Ryan, I agree with you. I think, again, we all said it in the preview, that moving forward with Punk, there's just more high-profile matches with him as the champion. And also, if he would have lost last night, what do you do with him then?
Right.
I think Page is a guy, he can lose the first match with Punk, and then whatever he goes off and does something, and he can beat him in a rematch. You would never do that the other way. You would not have Punk lose the first match to Page and then beat him in a rematch, because to your point, he's not going to be around as long. That would not make sense.
Yeah. Well, and with me going in, rooting for Hangman, hoping for the win to raise him to another level, I mean, just with the crowd response, him getting 50-50 chance with CM Punk, I mean, he's there already.
Yeah.
You can take the belt off him, he's fine.
Interesting that they tied FTR and Punk together after the show. I don't know. Did any of that air? Do we know?
I don't believe it. Looked like everything went dark, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah. Not if we go by the Top Rope Nation YouTube account.
Oh yes, we had posted the whole post match thing to YouTube. It got pulled. I think you can still see it on my Twitter page though. I've got the Punk's whole speech and stuff with FTR. What was that shirt, Justin, they were wearing?
Sons of Hitman.
Sons of Hitman. Well, pretty cool shirt. I don't know if that's official or like fan made that they're wearing. I haven't checked yet.
But I said to Justin, well, who do you pair Page with if you want to do like a 6-man tag on TV or a 6-man war? He had a tremendous idea. It's one that's not going to happen, but it got me very excited.
I got to say, I was pretty proud of this one just from the facial reaction that Kyle gave me when I finally came up with what we believe the right answer is, and that would be the Briscoes.
Oh.
Can you imagine if Page brought him? I mean, they're not going to do it. I mean, if you listen to, I mean, especially, they're trying to, get in good with Warner Brothers Discovery with the merger, and if they were already told no by the suits, I don't think
that's happening.
Yeah, that's a bridge they're not going to go down. But I mean, we don't know what direction Page is going to go in. Is this feud going to continue? Is he going to go off and do something else? If it can't be the Briscoes, let's say you're just booking a hypothetical 6-man tag, Punk and FTR versus Adam Page in a tag team. Who's that tag team, Ryan?
I mean, do they try to reunite him with the Bucks down the line?
I brought that up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, potentially. I mean, the big thing hanging there is what happens when Kenny Omega comes back.
Yes.
How they tie him into this whole story. So
yeah, I don't know if it's going to be a 6-man feud. I mean, they could just do a one-off. It'd be a great Dynamite main event, though.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
And we know they always, in the summertime, do these big shows.
Yes.
Fighter Fest as a Dynamite, Fight for the Fallen. They got stuff they can do. But, yeah, match itself, we see him counter after the belt spot. We talked about counter the buckshot lariat into the GTS. I wanted to call out, too, when Hangman was going to go for the GTS and he did the sleeping motion to the crowd. That was fantastic. He got a lot of boos when he did that. I love that. Just the look on his face at the time. But
second best match of the night? The main event?
Yes.
For me,
okay.
yes.
I would agree with that. I think in terms of like the classic star rating perspective, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. So that was the main event. New world champion. So what? The 5th world champion in AEW history, I believe.
Jericho, Moxley, Omega.
Yeah.
Page Punk.
Page Punk.
Yep.
And I believe I've seen 3 of those wins in person. I was thinking about that last night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moxley at Revolution, Page at Full Gear, Punk last night. There you go. So 5 champions. Yeah, I don't know. I mentioned before, are we going to see CM Punk have a long reign? Because we know this company loves to do long world championship reigns. I don't know that that'll be the case.
There's a lot of matches, though, going back to that point that I made earlier. I mean, you can do Punk versus Bryan, Punk versus Kingston.
You have to do Punk versus Joe.
Punk versus Joe, Punk versus Omega. That's a lot of, I mean, unless if you want to run some of those on television, and, they're going to have to run something big when they do Grand Slam.
Yeah.
Certainly. I'm not saying that, you have to get past Full Gear, but in November, we obviously know he's going to be champion all out.
Yeah.
Even whether or not it's in Chicago or not. But,
Yeah.
I don't know. Over, under. January 1st, 2023, that CM Punk will still be the world champion.
Under.
Wow.
You over?
What about the old podcast trick? What do we always say? I'll say over.
All right. So the other big story this weekend was what was going on with MJF. That opened the show. Now, there was a buy-in match. Hookhausen defeated Tony Nese and Mark Sterling. Hook was big time over.
So was Danhausen.
Yep.
And Danhausen as well, who got the pin. Basically, Hook took out the opponents, and then we had the pin by Danhausen. We've talked about it on the show. Short term, I have no problem with that pairing. And Danhausen's super popular, so why not? They opened the show then, of course, with Wardlow and MJF.
Well,
That's what I would do.
just one last thing. Yeah. Sterling, again, with an ode to Jim Cornette at Chi-Town Rumble 89. Mm-hmm. And people can check the archives for our review of Chi-Town Rumble 89 if you're a patron.
There you go. And thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. We've met a bunch of them this weekend, by the way. We had a Top Rope Nation meetup over at New York, just before the show. It was a lot of fun. One of them's wandering the halls right now, Michael Jenkinson. I've seen him out there.
Keeping
He's watching
security.
The show. Yeah, keeping our security.
The women are just trying to break down this glass window right here to get in. It's unbelievable.
All the paparazzi taking pictures of the Top Rope Nation host here, and Michael's keeping them at bay. So thank you, Michael. But yeah, thank you to everyone for your support. I really appreciate that. All right, so the open pay-per-view proper, Wardlow, MJF, all this discussion this weekend of what's going on with MJF. He no-shows an autograph appearance for AEW on, what was that, Saturday afternoon?
Yes.
And then there's this rumor that he's got this flight booked. He's on his way out of Las Vegas. Is he going to show up for the pay-per-view just hours before the pay-per-view? Turns out he is there. We didn't hear the commentary, so I don't know how much they played into this on TV, but really from the looks of it, all we saw was MJF do like the little, plane thing in the ring with his arms, leaning into those reports about him flying out. But I don't think any of us, when we heard about it here in Vegas, we never really took it seriously that he wouldn't be there. It just doesn't make sense. The guy is under contract until January of 2024, which doesn't give him a ton of leverage. We know, though, that WWE probably has made some overtures through some people on, how much he might get paid should he go there eventually. It's clear he's not happy. I don't think that's a work. There's something going on. You've all probably read the reports about AEW trying to engage him in discussions to redo his contract potentially. That's not happening so far. Hopefully they can work this out, because when you look at homegrown stars with this promotion, he is one of the top ones. I mean, he's got a huge future ahead of him. Just the best heel in the business, in my opinion. And so you want him to get it worked out, but he did exactly what they needed to do here.
You talk about leverage and him being unhappy, maybe wanting out earlier than January 1st, 2024. I mean, you're right. He can't, if he wants out, he can't just no-show the pay-per-view and hope to get released, because that would be a terrible precedent to set by Tony Khan. If he's just like, oh, this guy's unhappy, I'll let him go. Because then if anyone's unhappy, they can just they can just start not doing jobs and get out. So who knows? It was the way the match was done. We should talk about the match, obviously, with Wardlow. Whether it was MJF's last match in the promotion or it was just the end of the feud, it was perfect.
Yeah.
That's how you beat a guy and, put over an ascendant babyface. Just 10 power bombs and let's go home. I mean, MJF had no offense in the match, basically?
Just about. I mean, and he was doing the thing that I know you wished Adam Cole would do more of, and that is play the chicken shit heel role, which he did fantastically by rolling out of the ring, trying to cheat in that fantastic spot with the ring where the ref and Wardlow were just watching him put it on.
Wasn't there a part where I read this online? I didn't notice it being there, that he was offering to increase the quadruple Wardlow's contract or something apparently in the ring.
Yeah, there was a handshake and who was it? I think the ref was Remsburg, and he reacted too. He sold that well. Yeah. So I mean, this was exactly what it needed to be. But do you think there's a chance now and we don't know this because it's a fluid situation here. We're recording on Monday, that he still wants out, and it was kind of like a Jeff Jarrett, although that's not apples to apples. Like, hey, you got to show up and do a huge job, and then we'll talk about your future, whether or not we're going to let you go.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this before, but like if you're trying to get out of your contract and then you no-show one of the biggest events of the year, how would WWE look at that? Like, would you want to throw money at a guy that does that? I think he had to show up regardless.
Oh,
but yeah, to do the right thing. Yeah, I mean, he's written off TV for weeks now at this point.
Stretchered out.
Yeah.
Which he should be.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I mean, I think you want to get the situation right, and you don't want, in case if he is leaving, you don't want to just like feed him a bunch of people. Oh, we've got to build MJF back up, and you feed him a bunch of people, then he leaves, and you're like, well, why did we do that?
Yeah,
it is the right move to have him off TV.
Yeah.
It's really interesting thinking about his future. What do you guys think? Do you believe he's WWE bound? Or is it just a work? There's like a lot of people who think this is a work, which the unhappiness is not a work.
No.
Because I don't know how, this second match from the top maybe not happening. That's a great way to increase pay-per-view buys. That makes no sense.
No.
Like, oh yeah, wow, I really want to see that match. Oh, it might not happen. No, I'm definitely buying the pay-per-view.
I'm throwing that $50 out there. Just so I can see if it doesn't happen. I got to pay for it. No, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense from a business perspective.
I think he's going to end up going where the most money is, which is what a lot of wrestlers are going to do.
And I don't fault them for that. A lot of people are going to do this too, like try to catch you contradicting yourself with MJF versus Sasha and Naomi. I always look at things like that, like when it comes throughout the history of time. As a fan, what did we lose when a person refuses to do a job? And if I liked what we missed, then I get angry at the person. If I don't care, which was the case with Sasha and Naomi, I mean, Sasha just doing a one-off job to Ronda Rousey, it doesn't do anything for me. I don't care about that. Naomi versus Bianca Belair, maybe some people would be excited about that. I wouldn't be one of them. But in this case, I mean, it would have been like terrible. Like if you built Wardlow up this whole time and then MJF no-showed. So apparently this match was always going to go first. And again, that plays into the basketball game because they had about, an hour?
Yeah.
Before the basketball game started. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think, first of all, how about Chad Repack? We're in Vegas.
The Repack report.
You better be real nice to me, Chad, because I'm mentioning you here in this very professional setting. You guys mentioned we were leaving the show. We're like, we haven't gotten Chad's takes yet. What are Chad's takes? And so he messages me, basically saying what we said. It was, whether it's the end of the feud or MJF leaving the territory, it was perfect either way. And then he goes, MJF going to WWE right now seems more interesting than, what he could accomplish in AEW. And then he follows that up with something that only Chad would say, I want to see MJF bomb in WWE. He's only 5'9", 210 pounds, no chance.
Chad, come on. Come on, Chad.
An incredible time.
I was thinking about what you're talking with Sasha and Naomi, and they're so different because in that scenario, we're talking about two women, frustrated on the creative side, MJF frustrated on the money side. I don't think MJF could have any gripes about how he's been used creatively, right? He's booked like a star all the time.
He is, and again, he's a heel.
Yeah.
And throughout the history of time, what do heels do at the end of feuds? They traditionally lose.
Yeah.
This is 3 times in 4 pay-per-views he's lost. Perhaps he could be angry because it was here, Punk last time, and then All Out against Jericho, which I think we had a problem with at the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the Punk, obviously, he needed to put him over after beating him.
Well, with Punk, he's 50-50 with the champ. I mean, it's not like if the extension was there or if Tony felt like MJF was committed. Would you doubt he would be champion within a year or a year and a half, world champ?
You clearly could go back to Punk versus MJF. I wouldn't do it like if things were rosy right now. I still wouldn't go to it like right away. It's still too fresh. You want to let that linger. I don't know what you do with MJF in the interim after putting Wardlow over like that, but I guess just build him back up.
Imagine the crowd response if MJF beats CM Punk at All Out in Chicago. I mean,
there's no way that's going to happen.
The place would just go completely crazy.
Anarchy.
Root for anarchy.
Yeah. Something the crowd went crazy about this was great. So Wardlow wanted to powerbombing him, 10 times?
10 times. Yep.
Okay, it was after, the fourth or fifth, he went to pin him, and we all thought the match was just over.
Yeah.
And Wardlow had his foot on MJF, and he took it off at 2, and that drew a great reaction.
Yes.
And then he just kept doing it. No War Pigs. Chad, I know you were very disappointed, by the way.
Which makes sense because going into this match, he was still under MJF's contract. So, fingers crossed, Dynamite on Wednesday.
That's true. You're right. He's now a contracted AEW wrestler. God bless you. Wardlow is all elite.
There you go.
But he's going to need a song, so maybe that's it.
All right, let's move on. Hardy Boys over the Young Bucks surprised me. I thought the Bucks would go over in this match. I mean, the crowd, they've wrestled in the past, but still promoting it as a dream match. And two of the greatest tag teams of the 21st, late 20th century, I guess you could say. I got to call out right away. The Bucks, once again in Vegas with the Elvis costumes, was phenomenal.
Oh, in the opening of their theme with the Viva Las Vegas Only Two Super Kick party. Was fantastic.
So as we sit here at the Wynn, just very close to where Elvis Presley performed back in the day, we've got, just down the road at the Westgate, we got the Bucks replicating Elvis Presley's Mad Tiger jumpsuit from the 70s, almost to a T. I tweeted it out. Look it up. I mean, the pants matched almost exactly the jumpsuit the real Elvis wore. I really appreciated that. The details. The match itself was fun. Like I said, the finish really surprised me. I thought the Bucks were going to go over because you got the cornerstone team of the tag team division historically in this promotion, obviously FTR in that conversation as well. And they haven't been doing a lot, recently.
The outcome of this match has me very concerned about a lifetime achievement tag title run for the Hardy Boys, which I do not want to see. In what I was alluding to earlier with these match lengths, it's like the year is 2022. I do not need a almost 20-minute Hardy Boys match on a pay-per-view.
Especially since Jeff Hardy was doing, I believe, his own Elvis impersonation, the latter era of Elvis, perhaps.
Oh, no.
Because I don't know what was up with him, man, but something was up with him.
Something is off.
The finish was Matt giving Nick the twist of fate, and then Jeff followed that up with the Swanton and Nick Jackson.
This was a total carry job by the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously important to them to make the Hardys look good. If they're cool with it, I'm not going to complain too much. But you're right. You look at kind of the future, what it may hold for these two teams. The Bucks have to do something important. Do they get their win back on Friday in their backyard? Do you think they'll just do an immediate rematch and they'll go 50-50?
I hope so. They can't stall this out for too long.
Yeah.
The thing with the Hardys in a tag title run, again, we're going to get to the tag team title match later on. I don't see the Hardys beating Jurassic Express.
No.
They won't be the next champions.
No.
True.
Maybe they could be the team that teams up with Hangman Page.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I guess.
Ugh.
I wouldn't be clamoring for it, but I could see it. Nobody was clamoring for a title change in the TBS title situation here with Jade defending against Anna Jay. And I got to tell you, sitting there live, everybody making a beeline for the restrooms and concessions when this one started because it was just, no chance Anna Jay wins here. 7 minutes and 25 seconds, although it made headlines because of the debuts we got here. Here's where we saw some surprises for the very first time. So you get the baddies coming out, and Smart Mark Sterling, again, we see him after the pre-show match that we mentioned prior. They come out, and then we get a debuting Stokely Hathaway. Surprised to see Stokely Hathaway.
Well, I think we all thought he was on his way, and I know that he did like some stand-up routine or something a couple weeks ago where he claimed he was done with wrestling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He had talked. You didn't see that when he made fun of NXT UK?
No, I missed it.
Oh, when he said oh yeah, if you want to stay in WWE forever, just ask to go to the UK brand. It's like witness protection program. They'll just completely forget about you.
Yeah.
I think we had talked about when he was let go the idea of him replacing Sterling with and managing Jade Cargill.
Yeah.
Smart Mark Sterling isn't bad. I just think that you look at Jade Cargill when she's on the screen, it's so clearly a main event act, star level act, and Smart Mark Sterling is not like someone who should be managing the lead heel in the men's or women's division. It's kind of like I'm getting those like Harvey Whippleman managing Sid Justice vibes, you know. So
It worked initially for her introduction, but yeah, she is long outgrown him.
I think everyone, even when she picked him, when she was like looking for a manager, you know, doing the Bam Bam Bigelow thing or whatever, and you know, she settled on him, and everyone's like,
They didn't really have a lot to choose from, but yeah, short term it was fine, but definitely time to move on. So you know, we had him coming out, we had John Silver came out at one point in time. In the end, we get the Avalanche Jade for the victory. As I said, no surprise.
match was not good.
No,
Very bad, very sloppy.
Very sloppy. Chris Statlander comes down.
She got a big pop for
Yes.
squaring off with Jade Cargill. So that's clearly a TBS title match that people buy more than this one.
Yep. And in the end, we get Athena, the former Ember Moon, making her AEW debut. Everybody expected her to make an appearance at some point, and here she was. So in the end, we get Anna Jay, Chris Statlander, and Athena standing tall together as a team. So it was fun for the debuts. The match itself was not good.
Yeah. In AEW, that's become kind of their hallmark, right? You have a debut or surprise. You know, in this case, Stokely came out first. And then you have another one right on top of it. Yeah. You know, because people aren't, I guess the thought process is, well, people aren't expecting the second one.
Yeah.
So it worked well in the building. People were, you know, as weak as the match was, people were fired up afterwards.
Stokely Hathaway got a huge pop. I was not expecting that.
It's easy to say now, and you could say this about so many people that got signed to NXT. But, like, given Vince McMahon's view of managers in the modern era, he always felt like a weird signing for them. Like, I was like, Vince isn't going to get his humor. I don't even know if Vince McMahon probably ever met him, quite frankly, when he was there. I don't think they had a lot of one-on-one meetings. But, yeah, I mean, hopefully he can show what he can do here, because he was criminally underutilized in Titan Sports.
Yep. The six-man tag, so House of Black, Malachi Black, Brody King, Buddy Matthews, defeated the Death Triangle.
Buddy Matthews was jacked.
Yes.
Yes. Ico Pro, Kyle? Ico Pro?
Do the thing.
Yeah, taking on Death Triangle. So Ray Phoenix, Penta, and Pac. Did we get confirmation on whose kid that was? Was that Ray Phoenix's son? That came on the entrance?
Alex's, I don't know. He was
I don't know for
shunted
sure.
off quick. I don't know.
That was that was cool. I like that.
It was cute.
We're all proud parents.
This was a really good match. Really good match. I mean, the headline coming out is that Julia Hart finally made the full turn. She's now House of Black. The lights went out. They came back on. Julia Hart's there. She blows the mist into Pac's eyes, which allowed Black to hit his kick and get the pinfall. And then she goes off with House of Black, and her face all painted up, all wearing black, of course. I mean, we've been waiting for this for how long? Last fall?
It was. I don't think it went back that far, but it was pretty obvious that she was going to turn.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be Griff Garrison or Pillman Jr. right now in
Yeah.
the pecking order, because
Yeah.
I don't think they're getting their vengeance in that feud.
Wasn't she wearing the eye patch at Full Gear?
Was she?
Around that time? Or maybe it was Revolution. I can't remember.
It does go back a while. It does go back a while, like longer
Long time.
than you'd think
Yeah.
an undercard.
Well, we were
program
wondering if
would
they were
go.
going to follow up on it.
Yeah.
Because it had gone on for so long. But here it was. Here was the turn. So
If they
crowd
had-
liked it. Crowd loved it.
If they had done this finish on a WWE pay-per-view, would we be crapping on it, though? I talked to our friend Garrett Gonzalez last night after the show, and he called it a WWE-style finish, and he's probably not wrong.
Yeah. It's not like the match had a ton of hype coming in. If it was like a big-time match and they do this finish, you know, a big championship match or something, yeah, I would agree.
Well, the thing is, though, is that they've been building it for, like, you know, maybe till last fall. So it makes sense storyline-wise. It's not like Alexa Bliss randomly turning on The Fiend at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like that is a very WWE thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like too much of a AEW apologist here, but
And to our earlier point about Hangman Page, this gives the loser an out,
Yeah.
right? Because I think this feud's going to continue. You can do a lot of machinations, one-on-one feuds. I mean, Buddy Matthews against Ray Phoenix on Dynamite. I think that sounds good. You could,
Yeah.
So
Buddy Matthews versus also significantly ripped Pac.
yes. This feels kind of like it's a battle for the unofficial trios titles. I know there's a lot of rumors that those are going to come into existence maybe later this year or something like that, but it feels like you've got two teams kind of looking to two very logical teams that would be contenders for those titles, like establishing themselves before the belts are actually debut. This was easily the best match of the first 3+ hours of the show.
Yes.
Until Anarchy in the Arena.
Yeah.
I'll say. Tape Machines, one of our favorite follows
Oh,
on
boy.
Twitter, he had one of the great comments. He's like, this match is 5 weirdo devil worshippers and Ray Phoenix being like, I love to jump.
It's accurate. It's accurate. What can I say? All right. Owen Hart Cup Finals. They start with the men, women right after that. So Adam Cole and Samoa Joe. Adam Cole decked out in pink and black. In the women's match, Britt Baker, his girlfriend, decked out in pink and black. Obviously, everybody knows they are the two that went over, so they foreshadowed the victors just by their outfits. Now, I will say in the Cole Samoa Joe match, this is when I had to go up to the concourse. I missed a lot of this match live. When I came back, Kyle, I asked you how it was, and you said very average.
Look, Adam Cole is very over when he comes out.
Yeah.
He feels like a big star when the crowd gets to go boom. But bell to bell, this run continues not to do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
The matches all feel average. And whether it's a pay-per-view, whether it's Dynamite, you typically always get multiple standout performances on an AEW program. I can't tell you the last time Adam Cole was one of those. I can't tell you if he's ever been one of those.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just reminded. I did not tell you guys this. I missed the first part of this also, going to the restroom. There was somebody in the restroom who was legit pissed that they missed out on being able to yell boom.
Oh, I mean, that's what it is, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We always talk about what's over, the chant, the theme song, or the performer themselves. And Adam Cole's great, but it hasn't really, I agree, it hasn't really connected with me so far as like his actual in-ring run in AEW.
And Justin referenced it earlier. I talked about it on the preview show that we did last week. I really thought that this match, working against a guy like Samoa Joe, would be an excellent opportunity for Adam Cole to work the way I want him to work, which is chicken shit heel.
Mm-hmm.
He did not really do that here. There was a little bit of it, but it was more just him being physically dominated by a bigger guy. He wasn't really leaning into it the same way like an MJF would. Now, MJF is a different character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have liked to see more of that from Cole here, and the finish fell flat.
That was the weakest knee strike I've ever
Yes.
seen in my life.
And again, I don't want to lean into the jokes because it's like the worst people on Twitter that make them with Cole's size.
Mm-hmm.
But, dude, he's wrestling a much bigger guy. One knee to the back of the head dome should not do it for Samoa Joe. Bobby Fish did interfere.
Yeah.
But it kind of backfired, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The crowd around us was shocked that was the finish. So, I mean, it's later career Samoa Joe here. He's not going to have super long matches, but you would like to see something a little bit stronger and not just go to the finish out of nowhere like that to end. I mean, how long did this match go? I got it in my notes. This was 12 minutes and 30 seconds. So, yeah, I mean, when I went to the Concourse, I missed most of this match.
Yeah, no Jay Lethal.
Yeah.
So they didn't factor into it at all. But yeah, I figured Cole was going to win, but you look at the totality of this Owen Cup situation, how it's Cole and Baker winning. Is this the kind of thing we would criticize WWE for? Because look, Cole's coming off 2 world title losses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to speak for you guys, but I don't think we're exactly clamoring for him to go right back to the world title picture.
No.
Britt Baker on the women's side just lost the women's title, and here she is. Okay, she gets kind of like propped back up by winning on that side of things. Where do you go with her? I mean, it's like, did you do her and Thunder Rosa again? Because Thunder Rosa could use another victory over Britt Baker, right?
Yeah. It was, very bizarre to me. I mean, especially after Adam Cole won. I think on our preview show, I had picked Joe and Britt. I was shocked that they did 2 heels winning. Mm-hmm. So after Cole won, I thought for sure Ruby Soho was going to win.
It definitely felt like she was going to win.
Big presentation with Rancid there playing her out to the ring and everything. We had the guitar player for Britt, I guess, but not as big
he's
of a
from
production.
Stuck Mojo.
Yeah.
The
I wouldn't have guessed
DDP
that.
days. Yeah, I didn't know that until I don't know my Stuck Mojo guitarist. I can't say, but
But it's weird because Britt she's a made woman. No matter what happens, right now her and Jade are heads and shoulders above everyone else in the women's division. We think Jade long term is going to be the star of the division, but right now it's Britt Baker. And so, like, she didn't necessarily need this. They need to create more stars in that women's division. And Ruby Soho, I mean, she had the crowd behind her. She had the big entrance. I'm shocked. I was shocked she didn't win.
And the video packages, like on Road 2 and whatnot, really played into the fact that she has not won the big one. Mm-hmm. Typically, when you do that with a babyface, they win the big one.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that was, remember, like, Jericho and Rock? And No Mercy, although Jericho was going heel, ironically enough. That was like, oh, he's never won the big one, and then he beat Rock. But yeah, I was kind of shocked by this. I was pretty convinced Ruby Soho was going to win. And here's the thing, too. I've seen this on Twitter, some discussion. Just because, this goes for WWE or AEW, just because they do something that I didn't pick in my previous show doesn't make it wrong. Mm-hmm. I think there is maybe an argument that, can you rehab Ruby Soho? Like, we'll look at this, the flip side of what you just brought up, Ryan. Okay, you need to make new stars. Ruby Soho wins this tournament. Well, what do you do with her? You're not going to have her beat Jade Cargill.
No.
You're not going to put the world title on her. I mean, Thunder Rosa is above her. Mm-hmm. So, like, what do you really do? It's like, okay, it'd be a great moment, but 3 months from now, next year when you're doing this again, because it sounds like they're going to do it again, I mean, do you want to look back? Oh, Ruby Soho was the first Owen Hart Cup winner, and she's like, middle of the pack, kind of a nobody. That may be how they looked at it.
Yeah.
And we talked about it on our preview show. With the heels winning, they can do the same shtick that Owen Hart did with his slammies by rubbing it into everybody's faces.
It was kind of awkward with them standing there while Martha was speaking, like, speaking from the heart, and it was nice. Obviously, I think the best thing about this tournament, we would all agree, is that it got Owen Hart's name back on wrestling television. Honestly, I don't love 2 tournaments going concurrently on television. I think that kind of hurt the build a lot for the reasons we outlaid on the preview show. So, but yeah, they were the winners. I don't know. They're both made people, honestly, but it kind of keeps them at a certain level. And we should talk about the finish.
Another Bret Hart callback.
Yes, was not a 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Play on the WrestleMania 10 finish, but it was a victory. Ruby went with the victory roll, and it was reversed in a different way.
Close, yeah, but not quite exactly.
This was our first bad sharpshooter of the night, was in this match.
Yes, it was.
There were multiple bad sharpshooters on this evening, and what's terrible for Ruby is she had the crowd. Yeah. When she looked at the crowd and it was clear she was going to do a sharpshooter, people were like, okay, it's over. She's going to win. And then it was a really bad sharpshooter.
Crowd booed.
Yeah,
I heard boos.
Yeah, you heard the boos. And that's when they kind of lost the crowd. When not just that it wasn't the finish, but it was a bad sharpshooter.
Yeah. No.
Maybe that's why they need to bring Bret Hart into AEW to get a clinic on sharpshooters.
For God's sake, CM Punk, Adam Cole, Ruby Soho, all great performers. None of them can do a sharpshooter worth a damn. I don't know what's going on, Kyle, but somebody needs to show them.
If you can't do a move well, just don't do it. That goes back to, people say, oh, what an arrogant thing to say. It goes back to, like, The Rock. I remember
Rock couldn't do it either.
You're right. The sharpshooter is one thing, but he did it. But, like, just his moveset in general. Remember when he first started and he was a babyface and was not getting over? He would do, like, a lot of, like, stuff you would never see him do in his main event run. And I don't know if he was the one who relayed this directly or somebody else told you about it. Like, Pat Patterson basically was like, well, just stop doing this stuff and just do, like, the 5 or 6 moves you're really great at. Mm-hmm. And if you look at, like, kind of like 98 through the end of Rock, that's what he did.
Yeah. No, and as you mentioned, really cool to see Martha Hart come out there for the presentation afterwards, did a nice job with her speech. And then the belts, which, Justin, you called to my attention that the belts are basically inspired by the old Stampede belts.
Yeah, they're almost identical, just you have the pink for Owen Hart. And this, the wording on it is different, but
yeah, really cool belts.
Be curious to see what they do with those. If this is the last we see of them until next year, or I don't know if the heels wear them. I don't know.
Well, if they're true to Owen Hart, you never stop carrying it.
It's true.
Carry them out. Keep carrying out. Yeah, I'm sure we'll see them for a little bit. They paid a pretty penny for those, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you. Yeah.
AEW currently does have a oversaturation.
That was the comment you made in the crowd. You're like, now what champion is this person? Like everyone early on had a different belt that they were coming out with, and a little too many floating out there now.
The whole power couple dynamic winning too is also very WWE.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. 6-man tag. Men of the Year, Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky, and Paige Van Zant debuting, taking on Kazarian, Sammy Guevara, and Ty Conti. 12 minutes and 30 seconds, a match that was added late. This one and the following match, Kyle O'Reilly and Darby Allin, were the ones they added on Friday night. Officially, they'd been rumored for the show. I will say, I took watching this, tried to take it in as a casual fan, and I guess as a casual fan, it would have been entertaining, because of the, like my wife said to me, it was entertaining watching Sammy and Ty interact to her. Now, we're kind of sick of it because we've been seeing it, but for people that don't watch it week to week, you don't see on TV everything that they're doing. The way that those two jaw to the crowd is pretty entertaining. They're really good in that role.
They were the only ones really playing to the crowd. By the way,
Yes.
I think throughout this card, compared to some other AEW shows, the performers did a good job at playing to the crowd. That's something we've said in the past, where just don't go in and just do your moves. You want to do a move, let it sink in, play to the crowd. They were the only ones doing it in this match.
Do you notice, like WWE, if you compare the two, they always play to the cameras more? It seems like in AEW, I don't know if that's emphasized backstage that they play to the crowd more. And Roman does it. But I see like a separation there a little bit when I watch the two products.
It doesn't feel as micromanaged as WWE does. Where like in WWE, somebody hits their finisher, and if they're facing the wrong way for the pin, they'll jump over so that their face is towards the camera,
Right.
which is ludicrous.
I thought this match stunk. I'm going to be honest with you.
It was sloppy too.
Well, it's not just what happened in the ring. Just the dynamic was so bad because the only person who was really a babyface in this match was Frank E. Kazarian. I think you should change that, by the way. Like Y.E. Coyote. I think it should be Frank E. Kazarian. And no one really cares about old Frankie. He's not hunting elites anymore. He gave up on that. It just wasn't working well for him. Yeah. Maybe there's just not that many elites to hunt anymore. But, and now he's doing this. And it was kind of a real sad attempt to get people, I guess, to want to see Sammy and Ty win too. Mm-hmm. But it did not work. And I don't know if you guys remember this. There was a spot down the home stretch where Kazarian told Sammy and Ty to kind of F off, right? Mm-hmm. I think he even did that to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then Men of the Year and Paige Van Zant started the beatdown. The crowd just wanted that to be the finish, but they went too many minutes after that.
And then it was confusing because then he would kind of pop back into the match.
And then he kept helping, trying to win it after he told us, why didn't you just walk away?
It was almost immediately. It was 30 seconds after he said
one
no.
near fall. It was like Sammy kicked out.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you know what? Maybe I do want the winner's share of the purse here.
An embarrassing admission I have to make here to the listeners is when Sammy and Conte came out, you both were like, what are they dressed as? And I had the answer probably a little too quickly that they were dressed as Maleficent.
You knew
Disney.
it instantly. Very impressive.
I blame my wife.
Very impressive.
So the finish, we should just get through this, I think.
Yeah.
Because no one really cared about it. I mean, this was probably one of the weakest matches on the show, besides the TBS title match. Sammy accidentally kicked Ty, and, there was the UF'd up chant. And Sammy's stock right now seems real low, far lower than it ought to be. He had that match with Cody. I was there live in Cleveland where he won the title back in that ladder match. And things were great. They added Ty Conti to the presentation, and it has just not worked. It's the wrong kind of heat, too. It's not oh, we want to boo these people. It's we want you not to be on television.
Which Tony has admitted took him off guard. He thought that the crowd would still be behind them together.
He did say that. Yes, I caught that. And it was just a misread. And remember we talked about this a couple weeks ago when they did sort of course correct and decide, okay, they're going to be heels. They came out and they cut that promo, and it was so cookie cutter. It was basically okay, you can boo us. Mm-hmm. It's cool. We're admitting we're heels now, and
it's fine. Go ahead.
It wasn't good.
No,
at all. So they need to rehab Sammy, and I'm just going to say Scorpio Sky should not be the TNT champion.
My fantasy booking is you get that TNT title on Wardlow ASAP.
Yeah.
That thing has just been all over the place, very short title runs.
Wardlow I think is a contender. I mean, Meltzer has outlined how he thinks like Bryan Danielson would be perfect for it. Like it would be a better version of what the WCW TV title was back in the day, where it's like you have a worker who will just defend against all comers, having these great matches.
Now, see, in my head, I was thinking Lex Luger with the United States title.
Okay,
Wardlow
Wardlow would
yeah,
work absolutely, depending on what the world title trajectory is. I think Wardlow is absolutely a contender. I just think again, going back to what we said about Cole, in a promotion full of people who turn in standout performances, when were you like, oh, this Scorpio Sky? I mean, this is a guy that you should have, a championship on. I just don't see it.
Well, frankly, I'm just offended by those Lakers colors on the TNT title.
The belt looks cool. I will say it looks cool, but you're a Celtics fan. You got to be objective here. It's a good-looking belt.
I think it's a good-looking, but yeah, I just don't think Scorpio's. I don't dislike the Men of the Year act. I don't think Lambert fits well with it.
They don't need him,
no,
right?
No,
Yeah.
There's chemistry between Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. I don't know, man. There's just a lot of people. If there's two men's singles titles, Scorpio Sky having one of them.
No, I'd get it to Wardlow pretty quickly. You could do some great matches in that division. Wardlow and Miro when he comes back. Mm-hmm. I mean, that'd be a good one. Feel like two big dudes hammering on each other. There you go. Right. So, 12 minutes 30 seconds. Not a great match. Then they go to Kyle O'Reilly and Darby Allin. Again, added late, 9 minutes and 45 seconds. I was surprised by the finish.
Yes,
Kyle O'Reilly getting the victory here.
And pretty clean.
Yeah,
very clean. Darby getting wiped out in under 10 minutes by Kyle O'Reilly, who does not feel like a big deal in AEW.
No, he doesn't. This match was not, the liveliest in the building. I think I'd probably actually had the least amount of heat of any match.
I agree, yeah.
But, my buddy Mike Johnson appears with us regularly on the watch along. He texted, he said he loved it.
Yeah.
And there were people on Twitter who said they really enjoyed it. It was technically sound. This was probably the part where it felt the pay-per-view was being elongated and maybe there was some restlessness in the crowd. But it was a good match, I think. It probably would have just been better served on Dynamite where it could have stood out.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It kind of felt like the finish came out of nowhere. It was a little shorter than I thought it was going to be. I thought the next match went far too long.
Yeah. We should mention, too, we talked about the Punk repeating the spot with the buckshot lariat.
Oh, yeah.
They did that again here in Darby and Kyle, where Darby, the spot was he was supposed to do his tope through the ropes, and Kyle was going to catch him in a chokehold, and Darby damn near killed himself doing it. Like he came up short, and the crowd gasped. That was probably the most audible reaction it got in the building, and then they just went to the other side and they did it again so they could do the spot, and you knew something was coming up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that was brutal looking live. We were worried for him at first.
I don't know what you do with Kyle O'Reilly, though.
I don't either.
What are they building him for?
Yeah, I don't know. Darby's a guy, lost to Punk, obviously All Out, but that was fine. Mm-hmm. Lost to MJF at Full Gear.
Yep.
And then what did he was in the multi-person match with Sting, and they went over that. So, but still, he just feels, you talk about potential. Who is the greater ceiling at AEW? It's clearly Darby Allin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Compared to Kyle O'Reilly, I would have Darby get his win. Are they going to build to a tag match, Darby and Sting against like Fish and O'Reilly? That's probably where they're going.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about, for the history of this promotion, we always talk about who are the best homegrown stars, and it's always MJF, Darby Allin on the men's side. And Darby's definitely, his trajectory is not moving in the right direction right now, for sure. I mentioned the next one, the women's championship match, 16 minutes and 55 seconds. Thunder Rosa, no surprise, retaining over Serena Deeb. I thought the crowd was getting restless in this one.
Well, this was the match that I was in the concession area. You talked about how you got to stretch your legs, you got to get another beer, whatever. And I was in the concession area, and they were definitely stretching on this because this is when the basketball game was ending. Mm-hmm. And this is when the guy walked up to the bar and said, "Hey, can you put the basketball game on?" Also at the bar, Justin, because you came up. Or no you didn't come up. It was our good friend Aaron Graham. Yeah. I apologize, Aaron. And Mox and Santana were up there getting ready for the entrance in the bar. So I just kind of stayed up there and chilled. I wanted to stretch my legs. But yeah, I think, you mentioned that time relative to some of the match times we've talked about earlier. They were clearly stretching this so that Anarchy in the Arena could go on when the basketball game was over.
Yeah.
Again, this match was technically sound.
Yeah.
I think these are two of the better in-ring workers, if not the two best in the AEW women's division.
It just suffers from the same thing as Jade versus Anna Jay, where the outcome was not in question.
Good point. And here's another thing too. We've talked about it. People, the Dirty Diaper Club gets mad at us about maybe saying there shouldn't be two women's titles yet in this promotion. Who's Thunder Rosa's next contender?
Well, that's the thing about with Ruby. They could have built her up as a challenger. Britt always can get a title challenge, obviously, but Ruby Soho, I mean, they could have done it. Both of them are baby faces, but they don't shy away from doing babyface versus babyface at all in this promotion. So,
good point.
I kind of saw her as maybe in that next tier of title contenders, and maybe they still get there. But if they were gonna go in that direction, then I don't know why you don't have her win the Owen. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, no chance of a title change here. Thunder Rosa wins with a superplex, followed shortly thereafter by a Fire Thunder driver for the pinfall. And this Anarchy in the Arena match, guys.
Woo.
How have we not talked about this 70 minutes into the podcast?
Unbelievable. Okay. We did talk about the music earlier, how they continued to play Wild Thing. I loved it live. The crowd was mad when they didn't play it a third time, and Jericho ended all that. We talked about that, but yeah, I mean it was hard to follow in the arena because they were so all over the place, and we're looking behind us this way. We also didn't realize, so we were in the section right between where Moxley and Bryan came down, and we were all watching Moxley come down to our left, and then I think it was Aaron. Or Justin.
This guy.
Justin? Okay, guy. Justin, you're like, oh, Brian's on this side. So I turn over. Sure enough, there's Brian. Nobody's even looking at him. He's standing right there on the stairs, and everybody was looking the other way. And we started pointing that way, and then more people noticed, and Brian's on that aisle coming down.
So I was coming down behind Brian.
Yeah.
And when him and, who did he get? Which guy in 2.0 did he get a fight? It doesn't matter. The security overreacted, and they thought there was a fight.
Oh.
The one guy started going, oh my God. And then the other guy's like, no, it's fine.
Wow.
Yeah. They totally did. Maybe I misread the guy. I don't know. Maybe something happened. It seemed like he really overreacted. He thought like a fan got into it with Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, this match was a very much needed shot of adrenaline for everybody in that arena, because it was really starting to get little dead in there as far as this crowd is concerned, because they were pretty live.
I felt like the theme music, they even made it louder. It was super loud as they kept playing that over and over, as compared to the other entrances earlier in the show. But yeah, I mean, a little hard to follow, but we're watching the big screens. We're seeing everything happening on the concourse. Our buddy Chris Bean, patron of the show, he was out there on the concourse, saw Eddie Kingston fighting right in front of him. That was cool. But I mean, in the end, what they fought, or what they got up to, was this heat between Kingston and Bryan Danielson. And how good, Kyle, was Eddie Kingston in this match?
I'm going to give credit to Justin, because the match was going on, and he said Kingston hasn't walked out yet, and when he walks out, this crowd's going to lose it. And he walks out with
drenched in blood
with a gasoline can. And, again, I don't want to give any credence to the bad faith actors on Twitter, but there's this notion in modern wrestling, there's cosplaying, right? Yeah. This guy's pretending to be a wrestler. And, when you come out bloody like that, holding the gasoline can, there could be a sense, if it's a different person, where it's like, oh, this is phony. And it's it gets the wrong reaction. You almost laugh. You could laugh at it if it's the wrong guy. With Eddie Kingston, it feels authentic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the promo where he talked about being an alcoholic before is unbelievable. I mean, this guy is really on a different level than most of the people in AEW. I mean, in a promotion full of standout performances, like we talk about again, he's a guy who, unlike an Adam Cole or some of the other guys we talked about who maybe haven't given him Scorpio Sky, he gives standout performances a lot.
Yeah.
And you talk about him and Bryan Danielson, we knew that was the direction they were going. They played it up in the interviews. That's a feud which not only will be great, that we all think, but could set one or both up for CM Punk in a world title match, because obviously those are matches that people really don't need a lot of extra impetus to want.
This match, talking about just how chaotic it was, it felt very much like a match we recently covered on Top Rope Classics, the Nasty Boys versus Cactus Jack and Max Payne. And that's, it does not feel choreographed. It was fun trying to figure out where the hell everybody was.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that, the camera had the same problem keeping up with everybody.
This is one I would love to see how they produced it on television.
Yeah.
Because, were there, we don't know. Were there split screens? What were they doing? Was it just like insane camera cuts? Because, it was tough trying to follow this in the building, but it was a good kind of tough, where it felt chaotic.
Talk about those late pay-per-view buys coming in. There's going to be 3 of them right here because I can't wait to see how some of this came across on television just to rewatch the show. And Justin Joint, let me say, we know that we have the Justin Joint sweat scale. I think we need a Justin Joint blood scale.
I think Muda already took that from me.
I think we need a Justin Joint version, though. That's what we need.
I'll come up with the joint scale for sweat.
There we go. Okay, there we go. But yeah, this was tremendous.
Best match of the night?
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed.
I agreed. There was a dumb fan behind us. I'm sorry if he listens to our show. Okay, he was dumb.
Didn't give him one of our stickers, did we?
No,
I don't think so.
I didn't want to. He actually asked for one. I said, no, you can't have it. But no, he's like, oh, what would be cool right now is if like Kota Ibushi showed up and did a moonsault off that ladder.
What?
I was like, yeah, it'd be great if I had 6-pack abs too, pal.
How does that?
And this was the same guy who talked about, is Inner Circle still together? Who's on whose team here?
Yeah.
And he kept laughing too. He was ruining my authenticity point with Eddie Kicks. He was just laughing at spots. This guy was bad, Justin. Say how bad he was.
That's for a crowd that for the most part were awesome during the entire show, especially during Hangman Page and CM Punk. Boy, did we have some real nerds around us.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is I didn't hear that guy really say anything the rest of the show. It was just during this match for some reason. He was just giving just bad takes. Kota Ibushi would just magically appear and moonsault. What are you thinking?
It's all a video game, Kyle. It's all a video game. Just bring out Kota Ibushi. It'll make sense.
Real quick, I want to spotlight or detail the fact that Kingston in the promo was talking about he didn't want to do the match because he didn't know what he was capable of doing to Jericho.
Yep. And
what led into him starting to fight Daniel Bryan was that he wanted to dump the gasoline onto Jericho while Bryan Danielson basically had the match just about wrapped up, but he got gasoline all over himself, and Danielson stopped him from lighting Jericho.
Right. We should not bury that lead. Yeah, that was well done. Bryan Danielson taking the loss, him submitting. I know that it was 2 guys doing a submission. What do we think though in a multi? Because we talked about Bryan Danielson coming into this promotion last September. He's in a 10-man tag. Is that the best use of Bryan Danielson? Him taking the loss? I mean, I guess it plays into, Kingston screwed up when he had the match won, but I don't know. I could see some people possibly criticizing that.
Yeah. Yeah, so the finish was Bryan basically trying to fight off Jake Hager and Jericho until they finally take him out. Jericho locks in a half crab, and then Hager wrapped the top rope, which had been loosened. Was that Moxley that did that?
Yes, Moxley.
Yeah. So the whole top rope had been taken down, was just loose, on the ring apron. And they basically had the crab on and Hager strangling Danielson's neck until Danielson passes out. So, I guess he doesn't submit. So that's an out.
An out. So, but we talked about how there's machinations, different stuff you can do with House of Black and Death Triangle moving forward. Mm-hmm. Well, how about here? If you have Kingston and Danielson feuding, you're going to have Jon Moxley in the middle. Then you've still got Blackpool Combat Club when Wheeler Yuta comes back. Mm-hmm. Kingston should probably still want to feud with Jericho as soon as he wanted to kill him in the match. I don't think losing a wrestling match should be enough to suppress those primal urges. I guess if you're looking at this realistically.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways you can go with this. Still, we thought this was the finish we thought. We thought Bryan and Kingston were going to have a problem, and that's how Jazz was going to win.
Yeah. We were a little surprised that we didn't have the tag title switch hands. Going in on the preview show, I think, didn't we all pick title change here?
Yes.
Okay. So
Well, I know Megan Drosty was expecting Jurassic Park to Jurassic Express to win because Jungle Boy was no longer a boy; he was a Jungle Man.
he has now become a man. Jungle Man, Jack Perry. Yes. Jurassic Express defeating Swerve in Our Glory, Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee, and Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks from Team Taz. Yeah, we had picked Hobbs and Starks to win here. Ricky Starks continues to come off like an absolute star live. The crowd ate up everything he was doing. He's another guy who plays to the crowd very well. Would have really liked to see them get a championship run here. I mean, either team. Swerve and Keith Lee were very over with the crowd too.
Agreed. And something we talked about, though, afterwards, where this match was placed right before the main event, and it's a three-way. Usually you don't want to do title changes in three-ways. Those always come across as cheap. They aren't, like, what are the great title changes in a three? I mean, Chris Redacted, I guess people are going to bring up at WrestleMania 20, but
That's the best
the less said about that, the better.
Yeah.
But I could still see it going to Hobbs and Starks simply because, okay, the Hardys, unless if they do 50-50 booking on Friday, they're maybe in the picture. And I do think the Hardys are going to get tag title shots moving forward, whether or not they do 50-50 on Friday or not. And FTR, those are babyface teams. Yes, we talk about how the promotion's not afraid to do babyface versus babyface.
Yeah.
But I don't think they want to put Jurassic Express in a position to get booed. And if they're going to lose the title because Christian turns, that'd be a weird way to move titles to a different babyface team. So while I think most people want to see these titles come off Jurassic Express, and that's not a good thing if the champions are baby faces, I don't know. I could see them on TV, maybe Starks and Hobbs getting the titles, because they were the ones not pinned.
Correct.
So,
I will say for this match, some very, very well done near falls that everybody was buying.
Yes.
into.
Everybody was buying them.
Yeah.
Especially the Ricky Starks Rochambeau spot, which I got very excited for until they kicked out.
when matches get criticized for too many near falls, it's when they're like not believable, or you just don't buy that they're going to be in, or if too many times you buy it, like you're like, that should have been the finish. These were, they could be the finish, but not like it. That should have been the finish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
An important distinction, I think, there. I agree with you, Justin. There were a lot of great near falls, and I'll tell you what, man. I think my hair is going to be all gray by the time Christian Cage turns on Jungle Boy Jack Perry.
Keep waiting.
I
Keep
think,
waiting.
when did I first bring that up on the podcast that he's obviously turning on him? Like,
Was that?
October?
Yeah, it was last fall for sure.
Was it like after our All Out review?
Yeah,
September.
possibly. Because I think I remember being in the crowd at Full Gear talking about it with Aaron and Justin.
Yeah, because he lost to Omega, and we were all like, oh, what's next with Christian? I'm like, well, he's probably going to go heel and turn on Jungle Boy.
That's right.
That was September. It's now May.
Yeah. I mean, some of these stories have been drawn out for a couple of years, and we like that. Some of them don't. Maybe tighten it up a little bit.
Well, and here's something else, though. Maybe and Tony was thinking like this. You had just done, or were doing the breakup storyline with Wardlow and MJF. You don't want to have two breakup storylines going on concurrently like that. And also, they're probably going to break Britt and Jamie Hayter up.
Mm-hmm. That's another one we've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah. Well, this one seems like the most.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's it. That's the card. We only had the one title change in the main event. So, I mean, I know we talked about this on the preview show, was, where do the title changes happen? They only have these quarterly pay-per-views. We thought maybe the main event, but this one, that was hard to call. We weren't very certain. So we were pretty set on a tag title change. Didn't happen, but we get the title change in the main event. I mean, that's going to be the big story coming out of this, of course. Moving forward, you get CM Punk in that title lineage here with AEW.
And it'll be interesting to see just how quickly we have people from New Japan showing up on the big names. From not Great O'Khan, in all due respect to him, but Okada. Is he going to show up on Dynamite Wednesday? Do you want
a huge show?
Do you want to reward the big house? I mean, Warner Discovery, they're going to be there. You want to get those big reactions.
There's going to be more people in attendance at the Forum than there were at Double or Nothing, capacity-wise.
That's right.
I read that WrestleTix had that. So it's going to be a big show. We shall see. This was a big show, fellas.
Yes,
how awesome was this?
It was.
Hopefully we can come back and do it again.
Very professional.
Heck yeah. Thank you to the whole staff here at the Blue Wire Studios, the Wynn. This was awesome. I will be getting this out on the feed as soon as possible. Episode 253. Subscribe wherever podcasts are found. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And right here in the podcast description, patreon.com/Top Rope Nation. Best way to support the show. Bonus content dropping all the time. Justin and Kyle, we're about to board those planes, get back to the Midwest. It's been a lot of fun in Vegas, but it's back to the real world. Sorry to say.
Crummy real world, man.
We'll catch you guys next time. Take care.
Peace.